what he said.
Yeah.
You can have one. Hello, Amy Montoni. Nice to see you. Ty. Welcome home, Ty. Your family is early. You definitely get extra points for that. Definitely. The thing that's changed since we changed services to 7 o'clock is there's not all the big socializing. People come in at the wire. At the wire. See, they're coming. They're coming. Right at the wire. Is that sky on a Friday night? Lovely. And wife, yes. Good to see you. You're not by yourself, Ed. I was worried about you. We still have a minute, right, Brian? A minute and a half. Matilda, Gabe's going to be here. I said Gabe is going to be here. Can you hear me? Gabe is going to be here tonight. He's bringing his Abba. I told him you'd be excited to see him. But it's okay if you're not. He's okay. In a moment, Brian is going to count us down so that we can invite our friends at home who are watching on the live stream. I know some of you have watched on the live stream for years, and now you're here. Yay!
Did you see Ty?
So you just tell us, Brian, and then we'll get started.
All right. Fly us up.
Isn't he named Artoban 70 or 72? Yeah. Under here.
There.
I prefer them under here.
You always got
Are we there, Brian?
Yeah.
Shabbat Shalom, Pat Reader. 5. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Nice to see you. Welcome at home. We're gathering this Shabbat united with those across the length and breadth of this nation by grief and anguish after the deadly shootings in both New York and Texas that have deeply touched us all. So painful and devastating are these most recent and bloody attacks on innocents and children that we cry out to God in the words of Job. Today again, my complaint is bitter. My strength is spent on account of my groaning. Would that I know how to reach you, how to get to your dwelling place. We, like Job, are weary and grief-stricken, grieving for the sense of safety in this world that has been shattered yet again, grieving for communities that must bear witness to the unbearable and yet find ways to go on, weary from the despair that this tragedy, like so many before, will quickly fade from our view, and we will commit to doing nothing to fix all the broken policies and people that lead to such unthinkable acts. And yet, we still choose to cry out full-throated with these words of the psalmist, "Hear, O God, what is just. Heed our cries and give heed to our prayers for peace, for ease, for change." One of the things that when we are bonded together by tragedy is that we find even more sweetness in being together. And one of the things that is hidden in Psalm 133, Hine Ma Tov, which you can find on page 70, with which we will begin our service, is that it says, how good it is and how pleasant, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. And it means brothers and sisters dwelling together, except there's an extra word in there in the Hebrew, gam. Like, what's that there for? It sort of means like also, this too. And what the rabbis say is actually that gam is a little hint that when we are truly dwelling together, that God dwells with us, that's a little hint of God's presence in our united communing together. So as we welcome Shabbat, let us take in the sweetness of being together, and let us welcome God into our midst as well.
Hine ma tovu manai, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. 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 Hine ma tovu manai, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad.
I'd like to invite my parents and my brother Jonah to the bima to lead us in the candle blessing on page 3.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us.
As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, lechad likner shel Shabbat.
continue on page 20 and 21 with the singing of Lachado D.
And so, with a light that is lit before us, let's let that be a beacon to welcome in, and if our hearts are open enough, to go out of our comfort zone and beckon Shabbat to come with us, to be a part of this moment, to share in this experience together.
Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. La 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, Yishmi'anu el hamichad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem u'tiferet v'liti la 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki hi mekor habaracha, merosh mikedem nesucha. So ma'aseh b'machshavati la 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Hitoreri, kivareku mi ori, uri, shida Meiri, kabod Adonai alayich, la 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Boi b'shalom ateret ba'ala, gam b'simcha u'tzola, toch emunei am segula. Boi chala, lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. La 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela.
Page 26.
Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'amad yivrach yiroteh, v'yamlich malchuteh.
V'chayechon uvyomechon, uvchayetecho Beit Yisrael. Bagala, ubizman kariv.
V'imeru.
Amen.
Yehi
Shmei Rabbah mevorach,
le'olam
lo me'omaya yitbarach.
Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitba'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yitalev, v'yithalal, shemei dekudesha.
Brehu.
Leila min kol birchata v'shirata.
Tushbechata v'nechemata, damiram be'alma.
V'imeru.
Amen. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Remain standing on page 30.
Baruch atah Adonai,
Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah poteach she'arim, uvitvuna mishaneh itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uben laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo, el chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed, baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. Page 32.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha avta, Amcha avta. Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu lemadeta, Otanu lemadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachbenu uvkumenu nahasiach bechukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'b'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki em chayenu ve'orech yameinu uvahem neged yomam v'layla, neged yomam v'layla. Ve'ahavatcha al tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael, ohev amo Yisrael. This is the prayer of our fathers and mothers. This is the prayer of our sisters and brothers. This is the prayer supporting all others. We say it again. This is the prayer of our fathers and mothers. This is the prayer of our sisters and brothers. This is the prayer supporting all others.
Everything is one.
Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Kellam Ba'em.
La la la.
Yalla lai lai lai,
La
yalla
la
lai
la
lai lai,
la
yalla
la
lai
la
lai
la.
lai.
This is where you come in.
Yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai.
Harmonies.
Yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai. This is the prayer of our fathers and mothers. This is the prayer of our sisters and brothers. This is the prayer supporting all others we say.
ואהבת את
Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha b'chol nafshecha ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Eloheichem Emet. We continue on page 39.
Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot.
That wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness.
That there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. מלכותך ראו בניך, חוקי היום לפני משה ומרים, זה אלינו ואמרו, זה אלינו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Sometimes I lay under the moon and thank God I'm breathing. Then I pray, don't take me soon, 'cause I am here for a reason. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more wars, and our children will play. One day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything is gonna be alright. Everything is gonna be alright. Everything is gonna be alright, 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 alright. Alright, 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 alright.
More than the Jewish people has kept Shabbat, Shabbat has kept the Jewish people. On page 44, please join in V'shamru.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
The tefillah begins on page 46.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei HaKol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imachot, U'mevii Geulah livnei b'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham, Be'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei metim atah Rav lehoshia, Morid hatal, Mechakel chaim bechesed, Mechayei metim berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofeh holim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umido melech, Melech memit umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lahachayot meitim. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei hametim. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yehallelu chasela. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
Page 55.
May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and find our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise.
Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Ritzei, Ritzei, Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu, Be'amcha Yisrael, U'tefilatam be'av tikabel, U'tehi l'ratzon tamid, U'tehi l'ratzon tamid, Avodat be'Yisrael amecha. Baruch atah Adonai, שאותך לבדך ביראה נעבוד, שאותך לבדך ביראה נעבוד.
Page 59.
God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us, so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth, which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, ulecha na'eh lehodot.
On page 60, Shalom Rav, our anthem for great peace.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki ata hu melech hador lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech hador lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. V'tov b'neinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam.
At this time, we turn our thoughts and our prayers to all of those who are brokenhearted, who are broken in mind or body or spirit, and we offer them our blessings of wholeness and healing. You can find the words to this evening's Misha Berach on page 253. Please join us.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
We think of and pray for these from our congregational families: Betty Cohen, Frances Rose Cohn, Amy Cooper, Liz Daniel, Elizabeth Draper, Andrew Fisher, Beatrice Fry, Jacob Gluckman, Nita Hicks, Dick Kelvin, Chris Kuntz, Stephen Margolis, Jerry Morganlender, Kyle Ritter, Jim Rudisil, Deborah Sanders, Randy Scharf, Julie Sherman, David Teague, Bob Ward, and Billy Wolfson, and all of those who are lovingly remembered on the live stream chat, as well if there are names to add here in the sanctuary. I invite you as our gazes meet.
Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha la'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Please take just a moment of silence.
Yehiyu leratzon, imrei fi, v'hegyon libi lefanecha. Yehiyu leratzon, imrei fi, v'hegyon libi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri ve'goali. Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri ve'goali. Yehiyu leratzon, imrei fi, v'hegyon libi lefanecha. Yehiyu leratzon, imrei fi, v'hegyon libi lefanecha. Adonai, Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri ve'goali. Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri ve'goali. Yehiyu leratzon, imrei fi, v'hegyon libi lefanecha.
It's a simple formula the Torah gives in this week's Torah portion. Do good things, and every one of life's blessings will be yours. Abundance, security, satisfaction, and health. Do the wrong thing, and everything will be taken from you. The problem is that we know this isn't the way life works. Acting justly, being kind, spending your life in service to others might be laudable. It is certainly meaningful and valuable. But in truth, choosing to walk the path of God and godliness cannot stay the hand of circumstance or protect ourselves or our families from harm. The murders of innocent shoppers in Buffalo and school children in Texas pile on to the stories of people in our own lives who also didn't get what they deserved. I always think of my oldest and dearest friend's mother, a devoted Jewish educator, a great mom and human being who was diagnosed with brain cancer at age 50 and died less than a year later. I think about the elderly mother I knew whose aging in retirement was subsumed by caring for 3 grown and gravely ill children. I think of the 40-year-old mother I buried who collapsed and died in front of her twin toddlers while on the phone with their father who was stuck in traffic on his way home from work. I think of my son's elementary school classmate and her mother who went through chemotherapy together and died within months of each other. I think of my colleague, Rabbi Aaron Pankin, the president of the Hebrew Union College, who tragically died at the age of 53 in a plane crash, leaving his wife, 2 college-age children, and our movement without leadership. All of these stories, all of your stories, point to the truth that no amount of loving, of menschlichkeit, of Torah learning earns us a free pass from suffering in life or even premature death. Mordecai Kaplan, famous founder of the Reconstructionist movement, once said, "Expecting God to protect you if you behave justly and honestly is like expecting a bull not to charge you because you're a vegetarian." The formula offered in this week's final Torah portion in the book of Leviticus simply does not hold. Over the years, I've come to understand that those who canonize the Bible didn't disagree with me. After all, they chose to include 2 other books, which are a direct response to the fact that bad things can and do happen to good people. The first book is the book of Job, which I quoted at the beginning of the service. Job, who was a righteous man, blessed with 7 sons and 3 daughters and wealth beyond his needs, until Satan posed the question to God, would Job be so blameless in his life if his life was a little tougher? So God tests that. And when Job learns that his children are dead, he still doesn't blaspheme or curse God. And then Job himself gets afflicted. And again, Job remains devoted to God. The bulk of the chapters in Job's story consist of conversations between Job and his friends who visit to comfort and console him by urging him to examine and re-examine his deeds, because surely he brought this tragedy upon himself. And then when Job finally can no longer stand the futility of that exercise, because there was nothing he did, he cries out to God to account for his suffering. And God appears to Job out of the whirlwind, but more to admonish Job for questioning his actions and also for the temerity for thinking that he, a mere human, might ever comprehend God's role in the world. In the end, Job recants, God restores his fortune, and Job lives on to create another family, 7 new sons and 3 new daughters. Regardless of whether we find meaning in God's answer that we will never unravel the mysteries of the divine will or find comfort in that in the end, Job gets his blessings back, they're different children, after all, the book does give voice in the biblical canon to the truth that someone can indeed suffer without deserving it. Even a soul as Job, who appeared to follow all of God's rules, a person so God-fearing that he would command his children to offer sacrifices after a week of feasting, just in case they might have offended God. Even that person might suffer innocently. As Jews, we cannot contemplate innocent suffering collectively without remembering the Shoah. especially the murder of 1 million children. When such things can happen, there is no denying the existence of innocent suffering. And why, we must ask, doesn't God appear out of the whirlwind then? And that's where the other book included in the biblical canon might offer insight. I lovingly refer to it as the renegade book of the Bible, Kohelet, Ecclesiastes. Kohelet is the narrator of the book. Some say he's King Solomon. And he's an older and worldly man who's looking back on his life and attempting to put the pieces together into a series of life lessons. Essentially, what Kohelet concludes is that ultimate meaning and getting the answers to life's most difficult questions are utterly vain pursuits. Any simple formulas of what you might expect from life are absurd, since anything can happen, even bad things, to good people. Moreover, the God Kohelet describes is one who, after establishing the rhythms of the world and the cycles of life and death, remains remote and totally uninvolved in our lives. Unlike Job, who gets to argue his claim before God from the whirlwind, no God appears to Kohelet to offer a refutation of his damning accusation. The book of Kohelet is a monologue to the end. From these two books, I have learned that I sometimes have Job moments, and moments when I'm awed by the senseless suffering that I see, but still refuse to let go of the idea that God might be present in our lives. And I also might have Kohelet moments when the meaninglessness of suffering makes God feel so remote as to be absent. And it is in my Kohelet moments when it is helpful for me to turn to yet another book in the Bible, the Psalms. I once got to hear a lecture by Rabbi Harold Kushner, who is a well-known author and teacher, speaking about his book on the 23rd Psalm, which is entitled, "The Lord is My Shepherd." He recounted a familiar experience that many of you may have had. You're at a funeral. Perhaps the deceased is a loved one of yours. You feel your own pain. You contemplate your own mortality. And then something magically comforting happens as the officiant leads the assembled mourners in Psalm 23. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." It was that mysterious yet universal sense of comfort in those words which led Rabbi Kushner to devote an entire book to this psalm. And Kushner astutely points out that the psalmist understands in this piece that there's a difference in how we perceive our relationship with God when things are going well for us and when we are walking in the valley of the shadow of death. It is notable in how the psalmist uses the third person in addressing God at the beginning of the psalm. He maketh me lie down. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. But then, when the psalm turns to the frightening experience of death and its shadowy unknown, the psalmist talks to God in the second person. "Yea, though I walk through the valley of death, thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." As Martin Buber taught, the difference between theology and religion is that theology attempts to talk about God, while religion is the experience of God. And the psalmist has an experience of God's presence with him in the valley of the shadow. And the power of the 23rd Psalm to comfort us is the very recognition that we too can not only talk about God, but be brought into an experience with God, even as we walk through the darkest times of our lives. The psalmist neither doubts the existence of evil, nor that God will be by his side when he is stricken by it. I will never forget when Rabbi Kushner finished that lecture and opened the floor to questions from the audience. One person asked him about his most famous book, and he referred to it as "Why Do Bad Things Happen to Good People?" And Kushner politely corrected him and said, the title is "When Bad Things Happen to Good People," because he wasn't attempting to answer the question, why? And I find that for me too, one of the most challenging parts of my rabbinate is not being able to answer the why to all the undeserving sufferings that our community are given to endure. And I have also discovered that even in the absence of an answer to the why, that being with people, making sure they are not alone as they walk through the valley, is where the meaning and comfort can arise. There was a study done at my alma mater, the University of Wisconsin, on pain tolerance. They took students and tested how long they could soak their feet in ice water. What they discovered was universally, a person could keep his foot in freezing water twice as long if someone was in the room with them. So think about that. The next time you're worried about whether or not you should call somebody to check in on them, or go visit them in rehab, or bring them a meal. Religion, our religion, is the project of making sure that no one has to be alone. Even the word religion is related to the word ligament, that which binds the muscles of our bodies together. When we are there for one another to remind each other that we're good people, that we do not deserve the pains we are enduring, we feel less deserving, and our pain becomes less painful, and our misfortune becomes less oppressive. The same day that I heard Rabbi Kushner speak, I happened to have a conversation with somebody who was celebrating her remission from cancer. And she proceeded to tell me that even after months of undergoing chemotherapy and radiation, that she wouldn't have traded the experience of being so ill for anything. But the way she lives, treasuring the simple moments of life and the people around her, would not have been possible without having traveled in the darkness of her cancer. She was not alone. In the very first moment of creation, God says, Lo tov hayot adam levado. It's not good for humans to be alone. And so God created others to be Ezrei Kenegdo, helpers beside us. So as we finish the book of Leviticus, yay. Just had to put in a yay. This weekend, let us also heed the traditional exhortation that we utter upon the completion of any study of Torah. Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. Be strong when it's easy, and may you have strength when things get hard. And when we cannot summon strength by ourselves, let us continue to strengthen one another. Amen. We now rise as we do two things before Aleinu. The first is we will count the Omer, and the second we will announce the coming of the new month.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sefirat haomer.
Hayom Shnaim v'arba'im Yom Shehem Shisha Shavuot LaOmer. This is the 42nd day, totaling 6 weeks of the Omer. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu shetechadesh aleinu et hachodesh haba l'tova v'libracha v'titen lanu chayim arukim, chayim shel shalom, chayim shel parnasah, chayim shetehevanu ahavat Torah v'yirat shamayim, chayim sheyimal'u mishalot libenu l'tova v'nomar amen. Our God and God of our ancestors, may the new month bring us goodness and blessing. May we have long life and peace and prosperity, a life exalted by the love of Torah and reverence for the divine, a life in which the longings of our heart are fulfilled for good. Rosh Chodesh Sivan Yihiyeh B'Yom Shlishi. The new month of Sivan will begin on Tuesday. And I invite Ty, who is Jasper's classmate. Is he here? Oh, he just stepped out, so he'll miss Aleinu. But we'll remain standing, page 282. It's okay. It's okay. Aleinu. Oh, Boone. Come on down. You're a contestant on... Do you even know what I'm talking about? Everyone else, you're too young. Come on up. Sorry, Boone, you snuck in, you slipped in. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, la'tet gedula liotzer b'reshit, shelo asanu kegoyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. On page 287, you may be seated. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Shabbat shalom. Jonah.
May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding. Loved, each of us, for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand, but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
Our thoughts turn now to all of those who have departed, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and our neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives are a blessing to humanity. We mention by name Shimon Ulrich Gottschalk, father of Tikkun, father-in-law of Meredith, grandfather of Justine and Sophie. Jean Schimmel, mother of Steve Schimmel. And Rita Vivian Silverman, grandmother of Avi Schneier, all of whom died in recent days and weeks. And we also recall the yahrzeits of Harry Bernstein, Alice Butchers, Rita Friedenberg, Marjorie Joseph, Ida Kahn, Sidney Krakowitz, Ben Nalick, Bernard Proctor, Ed Chick Rosenberg, Sidney Marcus Shockett, Mary Jean F. Simon, Ralph D. Simon, Bernard Sloan, Vivian Sloan, Daniel Benjamin Warner, all of those who are lovingly remembered in the live stream, and other additional names in memory this evening. If you're here remembering a loved one, I invite you to rise so that we might acknowledge you. And I invite the congregation to stand beside you, supporting you in reciting Mourner's Kaddish, which you can find on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach hirutei ve'amlich malchutei, ve'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala ubizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei dekudeshat brichu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiram be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlam Rabbah min Shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru amen.
Oh God, my God, forever I will thank you. Oh God, my God, forever I will thank you. Oh Decah, you turned my mourning into dancing, so that my soul might sing to you, so that my soul sings to you, and it not be still. Oh God, my God, forever I will thank you. Oh God, my God, forever I will thank you. Oh Decah.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I'm Buffy Skolnick. I'm representing the Board of Trustees this evening, and I'm honored to invite Jasper Childs up to stand beside me while I present him some gifts as he becomes a bar mitzvah tomorrow. Oh God, he's actually taller than me on the step. You can stand on the step. I was trying to think back to when I met you, and I remember you being at the JCC in the garden when your mom was teaching kids. Matilda was probably 3, and you were kind and engaging, and you hung out with the kids and made them feel special, like you were the cool big kid. And even though we're both evergreen families and I see you on the trail most mornings at school, I really feel like I know you better about your time in religious school here. When you and your brother came into the religious school, you were like, we're here, we're going to do this. And by the end of your first year, you and Jonah had learned more Hebrew prayers coming in with no Hebrew than any other kids in our entire school that year. And I watched you kind of embrace your journey then and become committed to literally arriving at this weekend. And for the last year, I've watched you come in a mask on Wednesdays with tie, goofing off in the parking lot until Jenny clapped her hands, called you in, and you became serious. And I really just can't believe that we're at this moment. I know you're ready for tomorrow, and I'm really excited to be a part of it. And Rabbi said that Devar is not one of the best. So we all have that to look forward to. So I'm going to present you with some gifts. First, you get your nifty gift certificate for a trip to Israel. You get your beautiful bar mitzvah certificate, suitable for framing, signed by Rabbi and Seth so that you can remember this day. From Brotherhood, you get a Tanakh so that you can continue your Jewish studies. And from Sisterhood, you get a Kiddush cup so you can remember the sweetness of Shabbat. Mazel tov. You can sit. I also have some other announcements to share. So next Friday night is a big night, planned to come. In honor of Rabbi's Doctorate of Divinity, we have a celebration planned with a Dan Nichols Shabbat here in the sanctuary at 6:30. You probably know Dan's music from Or Zarua, Sweet as Honey, Hashkivenu, and we're excited to welcome him to lead us in a musical Shabbat. And the celebration will continue, thanks to Hannah. We are having what Rabbi's always wanted, a total oneg with nothing but... That's right. So come to enjoy. Also, next weekend continues. Saturday is Shavuot. Please join us for a Shavuot service in the amphitheater at 5 o'clock, weather permitting. Otherwise, we'll still have the service, but it'll be in here. We're going to be honoring our confirmads and graduates. There'll be a dairy potluck after the service in the gallery. On June 4th, that morning at 9:30 will be our contemplative Shabbat service with Rabbi and Dave Hall. Thanks to the child's families, Mazel Tov to you guys, and they are providing the oneg tonight, so we appreciate that. Oneg reminders, please gather in Dave Hall and wait for Kiddush and Motzi before we dive in. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So it's been going around all week. Nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change. You don't come here to hear nothing's going to change. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Peace will yet come to us. So that is what we will conclude with. Peace will yet come to us. Please rise.
Od yavo shalom aleinu, Od yavo shalom aleinu, Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, Od yavo shalom aleinu, Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, Od yavo shalom aleinu, Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, Od yavo shalom aleinu, Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam.
kulam.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
And we're out.